Next up, Senator Hooser, or former Senator Hooser, could we get your insights into how patient organizations and patients could advocate on our own behalves to sort of bring about some of this change we've been discussing today?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brent. Thank you for the very gracious introduction. I appreciate that. I appreciate the invitation and the ability to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It's essentially how private citizens can best impact public policy. And just one second. I do have my regular presentation, but today I'm going to kind of go through just some highlights of it. And if there's time, we can take questions. Before I start, or as part of it, words matter and messaging matters. And so as I'm listening to the conversation, when I hear the words recreational use, I kind of cringe a little bit, and I much prefer responsible adult use. And I think that wears a little better in a public discussion at the legislature. Responsible adult use, who could be against that? The other thing that struck me from the earlier conversation when I jumped on is the importance to have a unified message. I've been to at least one other conference similar to this, and I was involved a little bit lobbying on behalf of legalization for responsible adult use in the Hawaii legislature. And it became real clear to me that there were three different groups, and maybe more than that, but three different groups all have a strong voice. And it's essential, absolutely essential, that these three groups get together and have a unified message. And one group, in my mind, and you folks all know more about this than I do, but one group is the user, the patient, the responsible adult, the person that grows in their backyard or grows a little bit here and there. They just want to be able to use it and not pay an exorbitant amount for it, not get arrested for it, not have to hassle with it. They just want to use it. The other group are the commercial businesses. In Hawaii, those are the ones that are permitted to sell legally. And the third group would be the, you can call them black market, gray market users who want to make money, who want to get in on the business of it. And so you have those three groups pushing and pulling on the legislation. I think former Senator Sparrow, who's a colleague of mine when I was serving in the Senate, in the chat, he mentioned one paragraph, which I agree with, is that a way forward is to, I'm talking now on legalization, is to give the existing permit holders some space to make money, whether it's 2 years or 3 years, and then open up the business so everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but many more people, from growers to retailers to processors, can participate in the industry and preserve the right to grow. So preserving the right to grow is a line in the sand for myself. And so those are the three elements. To be effective, and sometimes it's almost embarrassing because I'm talking to people here who obviously are involved in government, but some of the mistakes that people make are so routine and so obvious. When I was in the Senate, I served in the Hawaii State Senate for 8 years. I would sometimes get hundreds of thousands of emails. And many of those emails would not have the person's name on the email. It would be a message telling me to vote yes or vote no, but it wouldn't say John Smith or Mary Jones, and it wouldn't have their address on it. I wouldn't know where they were from. I wouldn't know who they were. Their email address would often say surferjoe@hotmail.com. And so it sounds ridiculous, but come up with an email address that says who you are, in my opinion. Mine's GaryLHooser@gmail.com. And make sure you sign your emails when you're reaching out to legislators. And again, I don't want to dumb it down too deep, but you would be shocked at the number of emails I've gotten. And another one for local residents. I know not everybody here is a local residents, but if you want to be effective, you have to have an 808 phone number. Okay, so if you're contacting a legislator in your district and you've got a 504 or 714 or something, they know you don't live here. Or they know that if you do live here, you just got here and you're probably not going to stay long anyway. So it vastly increases your credibility if you have an 808 number. So those are some of the basics. The really important thing is to know who exactly represents your district. Most people, I talk to these groups all the time, most folks cannot tell me who's your state representative, who's your state senator. They either will quote the federal senator, the US senator, US House member, but they won't know who their own representative or their own state senator is. And that is the most important person to you, and you're the most important person to him or her. They cannot serve without your vote or your support, and they darn well don't want you running against them or supporting their opponent. But if you don't even know who they are, you can't even start, you can't even have a conversation. And at the legislature, I think every legislator on the call here will agree, it's about relationships. It's about knowing relationships, people in your district, people that you're doing business with on a legislative level. And if you don't even know their name, you can't have a relationship with them. And so job one, find out who your legislator is. Job two, call them up or email them and ask to meet with them. Ask to meet in the district. We're outside the legislative session. It is difficult in the legislative session because there's so much going on. It's difficult to get a one-on-one meeting. Outside the session, the member of your state house, your state senator, they should say yes to you. You call them, say, a couple of people in the neighborhood, we'd like to meet and have coffee with you. We'd like to go somewhere and meet with you and talk to you about this issue. They should and they will say yes. If they don't, then they're asking for, trouble in the next election. We are blessed to live in a state where you can have a personal relationship with your senator or representative at the state level. You can't do this in California or Chicago or a lot of big states. There's just too many people. In Hawaii, you can. And so I encourage you, take advantage of that. Don't be shy. Call them up, say, I'd like to meet with you. And if you live on, wherever you live, they represent you, they're in your district. We are in an election year. And I was laughing when Justin Kohler from Kauai said that he was 48 years old and had 48 years of experience, and that's where he came to his values. Well, I've got 67 years of experience, and I'm sick and tired, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That's how I'm feeling about how long it takes to take baby steps on some of these important issues, whether it's having a medical cannabis or legalized cannabis law that works. We should have had this all 10 years ago or more. It is crazy that it takes so long. And I believe we should hold our legislators accountable. There was one particular legislator on the Big Island, and I'll say Representative Nakashima, and he chairs a key committee. And he said after the Senate passed their bill on recreational or responsible adult use, he said flat out, well, that's not going to pass in the House. And so you have one representative telling the entire state legislature it's not going to happen. And so that's not acceptable. So the people in his district need to mobilize, need to go talk to him about that. So it starts with people, with your own representative. Get to know them. If you like them, help them. So I served in the state Senate for 8 years and the Kauai County Council for 8 years. I ran in 10 different campaigns, lost 4 and won 6. Who's the most important person to me as a lawmaker? Who's got the most influence on me?
Constituent.
Yeah. No, my wife and my daughter. Okay. And next is maybe my neighbor. And next is a constituent who helps me. I'll tell you the truth, a constituent who walks door to door in the hot sun for Gary Hooser, if he calls me, he or she calls me, I'm going to call him back. And I'm going to do whatever I can to help them. I'm not going to go to jail for them. I'm not going to violate my principles for them. But if they need my help, I'm going to help them. Because, I love the work that I did. You can't do it without winning. You need people to help you to win. And to me, it's more than money. If someone's going to knock on doors, going door to door hot sun, hold signs on the highway, help me, and not ask me for nothing. When they finally do ask, I'm going to do what I can. So it's relationships. It's people that you know and trust, and people that know and trust you. And if you don't have a relationship, then you're starting way behind. And then the hierarchy goes down from there. Other people in the district. It goes to organizations like the organizations that are represented here today, people like the Sierra Club, labor unions, donors. And at the very bottom of the list are people that don't live here. You know, I've got a million people trying to call me as a state senator, and the calls who I'm going to take first are people that live in the district who I know, and people that I have a relationship with. A lot of people ask me, well, what's the best way to testify? Is an email work, or is a petition good? I have what I call a hierarchy of testimony. At the very top of it is in-person testimony. Bye-bye, good night. This is my granddaughter. She's interrupted her grandpa at the meeting. Okay, let me talk, okay? So, okay, that's good. That's good. So at the top of the hierarchy are individual testifiers from the district. A lot of times young people come in and testify in person. Then if you're not in person, the next would be Zoom or something like that. The next would be email from people in the district. And then further down the list would be mass email. Mass email is better than no email. So if all you're going to do is push a button and tell somebody vote yes or vote no, do it. Push that button. It's better than nothing. Did you lose me, or I'm back now?
Yeah, that was my bad. Sorry.
Okay. And then at the very bottom would be petitions. Petitions are okay if they're from the district and they're targeted and there's a lot of people. If they're just a mass petition and the legislator looks at them, doesn't recognize the names and addresses, they're really not worth a lot. So I'm going to quickly move on to the final point. So first of all, know your legislator. And they say, well, there's nothing I can do. You tell them, well, I believe there is some stuff you can do. You can go push for me. So you push on them, so they push on somebody else. And you do it with respect, you do it with knowledge, and you do it in a way that they know you're not leaving. You're not walking away. You're going to keep coming back, and you're going to bring your friends and neighbors with you. And at some point, they're going to deal with you. You have to have your facts, and you got to have passion, but it's a lot more than that. So that's with your own representative. Then I encourage people affiliate with groups. If you're not with a group, because a group will track legislation, a group will send you an email alert telling you when to testify, when not to testify. And there's key people within the system, the chair of certain committees and whatnot. So I mentioned Representative Nakashima as a whipping boy for this issue, and he deservedly so. And rather than all of us call him, we would look to see, who do you know in his district? Who do you know? I mean, find out where he lives and find out if you know people in that neighborhood, people that work with him, people that look like him, people that look like the demographics of that neighborhood. And then you turn on the fire hose and you offer that testimony. But it starts with a unified message. If you all don't have a unified message, if the growers, if the small users are fighting the commercial guys, and the commercial guys are fighting the black market guys, and the black market guys, when they want their piece of the pie too, if you don't have a unified message, you're not going to get anywhere, because those that oppose it are going to point to that. They're going to point to that. Well, we don't know what to do because you guys aren't on the same page. But that's about the highlights for now. I'd be happy to take questions from anyone. You have some good people on the screen today. Senator Ocasio, Senator Capella, Representative Capella, both of them are new. They deserve and need your help because they'll be challenged by the establishment kind of thing, because they're They're a little bit too progressive, a little bit too people on the planet oriented, I think, for some in the mainstream. Other questions?
Well, Gary, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm just wondering how you're sort of facilitating that pipeline of freshman legislators who are willing to take on the bigger questions. After 21 years of this medical cannabis program and patients still having a lot of issues because the program's was never medicalized. It's important to us to bring in more freshman legislators who are willing to do it like the farmer did back in the 1800s, right? Where they would go in and they would become a legislator, not because they wanted to politically, but because they felt like they had to. And
Right.
so I'm hopeful for all of our freshman senators and representatives that they'll go in and do the hard work that it takes to create the bigger impacts. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in that area?
Sure, be happy to. A couple of different organizations I work with are focused on this right now. And let me say, first of all, there's lots of ways to make change happen. Okay, you could take them to court, sue them, the bad guys, and we should and we are. You can take it to the streets, you can carry signs, you can march. We should and we are. You could advocate down at the legislature. You can submit testimony. You could be there telling them what to do, and we're doing that. But we need to do more than that. We need to change the people that are there that are sitting at the table, because some of them don't care. They flat out don't care about whether you're carrying a sign and whether you're writing a letter. And we need to find people who look at the world the way we do. And I say that in a global sense, people that put people and the planet first over money and over their own personal self-interest. What happens is good people go to the state capitol and they get isolated, and they're surrounded by people with money. They're surrounded by institutions and the establishment, and they're driven by fear. It's going to, be bad or whatever. And we need to find people with courage, people who have an inner compass, and people who will do the right thing in face of that fear because it's the right thing to do. And I'm going to call out Senator Ocasio right now for it. We're lucky to have her there, and we need to keep her there. And there's others I mentioned earlier. And so we need to support our friends, and that means giving them money. That means showing up and knocking door to door. That means writing letters and carrying signs for them. And so I'll tell you how it works in the State House. My focus is on the House because that's where somebody else mentioned it. That's where a lot of our big problems are. That's where you have a leadership in the House. And it's no secret, Gary Hooser likes to speak his mind, okay? I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm thankful that I'm free to be able to say it. The leadership in the State House makes unilateral decisions, regardless of what the rest of the 75 legislators want, because they can, because they have the power to do it, because they're not challenged. They will unilaterally block bills to expand legalization of cannabis. They unilaterally block bills to raise our minimum wage from $10.10 to $12 measly dollars. And they won't even have a hearing on it. And the community needs to call them out on that. The community needs to call them on this stuff, but we need to elect more people, because we have good people in both the House and the Senate, but we don't have enough of them. And one or two or a handful of new bodies can change the conversation, so those that support our views, our worldview, as I like to say, have more courage to do so, because now all of a sudden they have another senator who's willing to stand up and speak truth to power, or another couple of House members willing to do the same thing. 2022, in many ways, nationally and locally, is a huge year. In Hawaii, every single seat in the state legislature, every Senate seat, every House seat, the governor, lieutenant governor, and most of the council seats, I think, are going to be up. And there's going to be a lot of turnover. But we, I'll say collectively, need to identify and support good candidates. Because what happens is a lot of good candidates don't run because they don't know they're good candidates. They're intimidated. They think, I can never do that. I can never, be a senator. And then you find out when you look into it that they're just regular people. We had a meeting a couple days ago of our Kuleana Academy, which trains candidates. And one of our featured speakers was a Republican senator, Favela. And he talked about, I think he ran 5 times and lost. His background, his job was a custodian for an elementary school. And he worked really hard. He knocked on doors. He worked in his community. He got elected to the Hawaii State Senate and is serving there. And he's good on a lot of issues that are important to me. So we encourage people, if anyone on this panel knows of anyone in their community who thinks they would make a good candidate, and I'll describe that briefly if I could, is someone who has roots in the community, someone who has an 808 phone number and they just didn't get off the plane, someone who knows their community, someone that can relate to the different demographics. Hawaii is made up of a lot of different ethnicities, a lot of different demographics, and people have to be able to relate to those folks. You can't win with just cannabis people. You can't win just with any one ethnicity or any one issue, if you would. So roots in the community, ability to relate to people in the district, and who's willing to work really hard. In the state house, I'll tell you a little secret. You can get elected to the state house in Hawaii in some districts for less than 1,200 votes. 1,200 votes. There's a guy, Sonny Gonadin, Representative Gonadin in Kalihi. It was a small district. All the districts are the same size, but the voter turnout is so small. So you can see he can knock on 1,200 doors, easy. And it's not that much money. But if anyone knows anyone who's willing to do the work, who shares our worldview, who's got a strong inner compass, roots in the community, and wants to run for public office, tell them to call me. GaryHooser.com, easy. GaryHooser.com, my phone number, my email is all on there, my background if you want to know more about me. And that's my mission right now, really, is to identify and support good candidates who want to make change happen and feel the same urgency. You got me on my pulpit here for a second. They feel the same urgency. Our planet is burning. We got people living under bridges and in weeds because they can't find a job that pays a living wage. We get people getting shot by the police. We've got cannabis laws that are way, way old. We got housing nobody can afford. The earth, the planet, our community needs help, and we need it now. And so anybody there that feels the same way I do about this and wants to help, you call me up, please. Or if you know somebody who feels the same way, I'd like to talk to you or to them. So with that, I'll say aloha. I know I've talked too long.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Incredibly helpful. Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.